So she was taking in all of those different forms of nature, dwelling on the bright, harmonious scene. Okay, she sees, but she doesn't really mark that somebody is standing there. And it's very interesting in this passage and the next that Sri Aurobindo, he hones in on this kind of moment in time, as if like a telescope, just in a matter of a few seconds, he's describing what's happening in these moments. So, Helmut, you could continue.
Thus, in the hour that most concerned her all, wandering unwarned by the slow surface mind, the heedless scout beneath her tenting lids admired indifferent beauty and cared not to wake her body's spirit to its king. So might she have passed by on chance ignorant roads, missing the call of heaven, losing life's aim. But the God touched in time her conscious soul. Her vision settled, caught, and all was changed. Her mind at first dwelt in ideal dreams, those intimate transmuters of earth's signs that make known things a hint of unseen spheres, and saw in him the genius of the spot, a symbol figure standing mid earth's scenes, a king of life outlined in delicate air.
Thank you. Again, Savitri is moving quickly in her chariot through this spot, which we'll see later, he says. So she hardly notices. She's unwarned by the slow surface mind. Her outer mind is not alerting her to Satyavan's presence, but also of who he is, of what he represents for her, the object of her search. The heedless scout beneath her tenting lids, that's her eyes, the heedless scout beneath her eyelids, admired indifferent beauty, and cared not to wake her body's spirit to its king. So she's not consciously yet aware. So might she have passed by on chance, ignorant roads, missing the call of heaven, losing life's aim. But the God touched in time her conscious soul. Her vision settled, caught, and all was changed. So finally, after, of course, this is just taking place in a few moments, her sight settles on Satyavan, and then all is changed. And now we see what happens in Savitri's mind. At first, dwelt in ideal dreams, those intimate transmuters of earth's signs that make known things a hint of unseen spheres. So he's speaking of the mind translating the signs of outward appearances and seeing within them kind of deeper truths or realities. So these dreams are those intimate transmuters of earth's signs that make known things a hint of unseen spheres. The outer appearances of things represent these deeper truths, and saw in him the genius of the spot. Satyavan notes that this genius represents, in Latin, there's genius loci, which is this genius of the location, the spirit of the location. The ancients believed that every spot, every space has a spirit. So she senses that he is representing something of that particular spot in which he's seen, representing its spirit, the essence of that particular place. A symbol figure standing mid-earth scenes. So it refers back to those earlier lines too, that her dreams are interpreting the outer appearances, finding within them their deeper truths. So she sees within his appearance also that deeper reality standing there, the spirit of the spot. A king of life outlined in delicate air. So we continue, B.
Yet this was but a moment's reverie, for suddenly her heart looked out at him. The passionate seeing used thought cannot match, and knew one nearer than its own close strings. All in a moment was surprised and seized, and in inconscient ecstasy lain wrapped, or under imagination's colored lids, held up in a large mirror air of dream, broke forth in flame to recreate the world, and in that flame to new things she was born, A mystic tumult from her depths arose, hailed, smitten erect like one who dreamed at ease. Life ran to gaze from every gate of sense. Thoughts indistinct and glad in moon-mist heavens, feelings as when a universe takes birth, swept through the turmoil of her bosom's space, invaded by a swarm of golden gods, arising to a hymn of wonders priests. Her soul flung wide its doors to this new sun.
Thank you. So those first moments pass where she sees but doesn't really take in or notice. Her mind is not really aware of what she's seeing. Now she takes in and realizes this man standing there. And perhaps something in her is already recognizing that he is the one that she has been seeking. For suddenly her heart looked out at him. The passionate seeing used, thought cannot match. So she sees him with her passionate heart and knew one nearer than its own close strings. She felt him nearer than even her heart's close strings. All in a moment was surprised and seized, all in inconscient ecstasy laying wrapped or under imagination's colored lids, held up in a large mirror air of dream, broke forth in flame to recreate the world. So all that was lying within, inconscient, all this ecstasy that lies hidden within us deep down in our unconscious, or under our imagination's lids, our imagination's sense, that's hidden within that, held up in a large mirror air of dream. Suddenly, she became awake to all of this, sees it before her. It broke forth in flame to recreate the world. As this conscious awareness comes up, it recreates the world for her. And in that flame, to new things she was born. It's as if she's being born again in this moment in which she becomes conscious of him. And then a mystic tumult from her depths arose. So a tumult is like a commotion, a disturbance, an emotional agitation rises up from deep within her heart, hailed, smitten erect like one who dreamed at ease. She's hailed like we hail a taxi. She's called. She's kind of drawn to him, smitten erect like one who dreamed at ease. She was kind of dreaming as she was seeing the nature around. Now she's smitten erect. And life ran to gaze from every gate of sense. All her life energies are pouring forth out of her senses, taking it in. Thoughts indistinct and glad in moon-mist heavens. Feelings as when a universe takes birth. Swept through the turmoil of her bosom's space. So these thoughts and feelings are emerging. Feelings as when a universe takes birth. It's quite a striking line. How many of us realize when a universe is taking birth? Perhaps Sri Aurobindo, I don't know. She's as if invaded by a swarm of golden gods, arising to a hymn of wonders priests. The wonder that she's experiencing brings forth these golden gods. Her soul flung wide its doors to this new sun. So we can continue, would you agree?
An alchemy worked, the transmutation came. The mission phase had wrought the master's spell, and in the nameless light of two approaching eyes, swift and fated turning of her days, appeared the stretch to a gleam of unknown worlds. Then, trembling with mystic shock, her heart moved in her breast and cried out like a bird who hears his mate upon a neighboring bough, hooves trampling fast, wheels largely stumbling ceased. The chariot stood like an arrested wind, and Satyavan looked out from his soul's doors and felt the enchantment of her liquid voice fill his youth's purple ambience, and endured the haunting miracle of a perfect face.
Thank you. Let's pause there. seeing him, recognizing him, Savitri undergoes this kind of transformation, and alchemy worked. The transmutation came. Alchemy is a process of transmutation of one thing into another that's sort of more valuable. The missioned face, the faded face, had wrought the master's spell. It had worked on her the master's spell, the divine's spell. So the divine was working in her, transforming her in that moment. In the nameless light of two approaching eyes, still he's unknown to her, nameless. A swift and faded turning of her days appeared and stretched to a gleam of unknown worlds. So her whole life is going to change. Will be a faded turning of her days. And it will stretch to a gleam of unknown worlds. That fate of that moment of her seeing Satyavan will stretch into the future, into unknown worlds. And she, trembling with the mystic shock, her heart moved in her breast and cried out like a bird who hears his mate upon a neighboring bough. Something comes out from her heart. She makes a sound, seeing him. And then hooves trampling fast. The hooves of her horses are trampling quickly. Wheels largely stumbling ceased. Suddenly the chariot comes to a halt. The chariot stood like an arrested wind. And Satyavan looked out from his soul's doors and felt the enchantment of her liquid voice fill his youth's purple ambience and endured the haunting miracle of a perfect face. So he too is smitten by her appearance. So we'll continue.
Mastered by the honey of a strange flower mouth, drawn to soul spaces, opening round a brow, he turned to the vision like a sea to the moon, and suffered a dream of beauty and of change, discovered the aureole round a mortal's head, adored a new divinity in things, his self-bound nature founded as in fire, his life was taken into another's life, the splendid lonely idols of his brain fell prostrate from their bright sufficiencies, as at the touch of a new infinite, to worship a Godhead greater than their own. An unknown imperious force drew him to her. Marveling, he came across the golden sword. Gaze met close gaze, and clung inside's embrace.
Thank you. So Satyavan also undergoes a kind of change here. He's particularly stricken by her beauty, her perfect face, mastered by the honey of a strange flower mouth, drawn to soul spaces opening round a brow. He turned to the vision like a sea to the moon, and suffered a dream of beauty and of change. Discovered the aureole round a mortal's head. This aureole is this circle, radiant circle of light around the head that we sometimes see in pictures of the deities, a halo. He adored a new divinity in things. So he's really stricken by her beauty, but also senses within her the divine. His self-bound nature foundered as in fire. His limited nature is burned up in this vision. His life was taken into another's life. The splendid, lonely idols of his brain, all those things that he had looked up to before, perhaps even the idols of the divine that he had worshipped, fell prostrate from their bright sufficiencies. They fell down flat on the ground. From their bright sufficiencies, previously they had been sufficient, they were enough, they were his idols, they were his ideals, but now they fall flat, that he has seen her as at the touch of a new infinite. To worship a Godhead greater than their own. It's as if they fall flat on the ground to worship a greater God. An unknown, imperious force drew him to her. Marveling, he came across the golden sward, again the grassy field. But it's interesting that Sri Aurobindo again uses this adjective golden, because she's representing this golden presence of the divine, of the supermind. Gaze met close gaze and clung in sight's embrace. So we'll continue, Jean.
A visage was there, noble and great and calm, as if encircled by the halo of thought, a span, an arch of meditating light, as though some secret nimbus half was seen. Her inner vision, still remembering, knew a forehead that wore the crown of all her past. 2 eyes, her constant and eternal stars, comrade and sovereign eyes that claimed her soul. Lids known through many lives, large frames of love. He met in her regard his future's gaze, a promise and a presence and a fire. Saw an embodiment of aeonic dreams, a mystery of the rapture for which all yearns in this world of brief mortality, made in material shape his very own. This golden figure given to his grasp hid in its breast the key of all his aims, a spell to bring the immortal's bliss on earth, to mate with heaven's truth our mortal thought, to lift earth hearts near the eternal's sun.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm actually going to read that at the end.
And also many people who actually saw the mother.
Yeah, Sri Aurobindo says in Savitri, everything here, it's based on experience. It's not just imagination or colorful, poetry. It's things that he's experienced. So we'll see that meeting of Sri Aurobindo and Mother a little later. But here we see that, so in the last line we read, gaze met close gaze and clung in sight's embrace. So first, we have Savitri's experience. She sees a visage, a face, noble and great and calm, as if encircled by a halo of thought, a span, an arch of meditating light, as though some secret nimbus half was seen. Again, this nimbus is a halo, this radiant light surrounding deities. Her inner vision, still remembering, knew. It's as if she's seen him before almost, or she remembers something of this. A forehead that wore the crown of all her past. 2 eyes, her constant and eternal stars. His eyes are like her eternal stars that have been guiding her through her lives. Comrade and sovereign eyes that claimed her soul. Lids known through many lives, large frames of love. And then we have Satyavan's experience of what he sees. He met in her regard his future's gaze. Whereas Savitri kind of sees something from the past. She recognizes him in her past. He meets in her his future's gaze, something of his future, a promise and a presence and a fire. Saw an embodiment of eonic dreams. He sees in her something of which he's been dreaming for ages. A mystery of the rapture for which all yearns in this world of brief mortality. That's what he sees in her. The rapture for which all yearns in this world. Made in material shape, his very own. This golden figure, again he describes her as golden, given to her grasp, hid in its breast the key of all his aims, as if she holds within her heart the key of all that he has been dreaming for, aiming for, a spell to bring the immortal's bliss on earth. This is what he has been dreaming of, what earth has been yearning for, to bring this immortal bliss on earth, to mate with heaven's truth, our mortal thought, to lift earth hearts near the eternal Sun. So he senses in her the bliss and the power that will mate earth with heaven. Okay, next, Nitya.
In these great spirits, now incarnate here, love brought down power out of eternity. Can I hold? To make of life his new undying base. His passion surged away from fathomless deeps. It leaped to earth from far forgotten heights, but kept its nature of infinity. On the dumb bosom of this oblivious globe, although as unknown beings we seem to meet, our lives are not aliens nor as strangers join, moved to each other by a causeless force. The soul can recognize its answering soul across dividing time, and on life's roads, absorbed, rapt traveler, turning it recovers familiar splendors in an unknown face, and touched by the warning finger of swift love, it thrills again to an immortal joy, wearing a mortal body for delight.
Thank you. In this last portion of the Canto, we get a deep lesson about love and what it represents, what it is. So first he's again describing that these two beings, Satyavan and Savitri, are great spirits incarnate here on earth. And in them, love brought down power out of eternity to make of life his new undying base. Love is a power of Ananda, the highest realm of existence. It comes from there, and it comes down onto earth to make of life his new undying base. It wants to establish itself here in the physical material world, in life, and make this a new base. But love brought down power out of eternity. Sri Aurobindo somewhere says that their aim was to bring down the love and delight of the divine on earth, but that he didn't think that that was possible without first bringing the power of the divine along with it, so that it could be established here and not be debased by the material and vital forces. So it had to bring power with it out of the supermind. So his passion, this is love's passion, this great love, divine love from above. It surged a wave from fathomless deeps. It leaped to earth from far forgotten heights, but kept its nature of infinity. Still keeps something of its infinite nature, even though it's come to earth. And in the next sentences, Sri Aurobindo describes something of how this love works in human life on the dumb bosom of this oblivious globe here on earth. Although as unknown beings we seem to meet, our lives are not aliens, nor as strangers join. It's quite interesting. It suggests that the people that we meet in our lives, especially those that are significant to us, we've known before. There's a past history and past lives. We're not aliens or strangers, moved to each other by a causeless force. It's not just by accident that we come together. The soul can recognize its answering soul across dividing time and on life's roads, absorbed, rapt traveler. So even though we're traveling on life's roads, absorbed in the moment, in the surface activities, turning, it recovers familiar splendors in an unknown face. Suddenly we may be struck by someone and touched by the warning finger of swift love thrills again to an immortal joy, wearing a mortal body for delight. We all hear of this love at first sight. Sometimes people can just see each other meet and fall in love, and this is what happens with Satyavan and Savitri. But again, it's because something within knows that person. The soul within knows the soul of the other. And it thrills again to an immortal joy, wearing a mortal body for delight. Okay, would you like to read?
There is a power within that knows beyond our knowings. We are greater than our thoughts. And sometimes earth unveils that vision here. To live, to love, are signs of infinite things. Love is a glory from eternity's spheres. Abased, disfigured, mocked by baser might, that steal his name and shape in ecstasy, he is still the Godhead by which all can change. A mystery wakes in our inconscient stuff. A bliss is born that can remake our life. Love dwells in us like an unopened flower, awaiting a rapid moment of the soul, where he roams in his charmed sleep mid thoughts and things. The child God is at play, he seeks himself in many hearts and minds and living forms. He lingers for a sign that he can know, and when it comes, wakes blindly to a voice, a look, a touch, the meaning of a face.
Thank you. Normally we go through life in our surface consciousness, our mind and heart, emotions, and our vital impulses. And we're moved by these things. But there is something also that works in us, deeper within us. There is this divine element. There are these divine beings, divine powers that also move us and work in us. So here he says there is a power within that knows beyond our knowings. So we may be unconscious in our surface consciousness, but something deeper within us may know, have this intuition. We are greater than our thoughts. We're not just this surface mind, vital. And sometimes earth unveils that vision here, that deeper vision. And then he says, to live, to love, are signs of infinite things. Also, these things are not like material forms that crumble, but last. Love is a glory from eternity's spheres, comes from above, from the divine, from that divine Ananda. Here, as it comes down to earth, it's abased, disfigured, mocked by baser mites. It's made fun of, perverted. They steal his name and shape and ecstasy, but he is still the Godhead by which all can change. He speaks of him as a Godhead, using this pronoun his, he. A mystery wakes in our inconscient stuff, in our material frames, our material bodies. This mystery of love awakes in us. A bliss is born that can remake our life. Love dwells in us like an unopened flower, awaiting a rapid moment of the soul. That rapid moment can wake him up. Or he roams in his charmed sleep, mid thoughts and things. The child God is at play. He seeks himself in many hearts and minds and living forms. Love is this divinity, this divine being within us, seeking his other selves, other forms of himself, other souls of himself, seeking in many hearts and minds and living forms. He lingers for a sign that he can know, and when it comes, wakes blindly to a voice, a look, a touch, the meaning of a face. Sometimes that love within us can wake up when it sees a particular face or a particular look of a person. Suresh, would you like to?
Psalm to guide him meets the throne of nature's hints, reads heavenly truth into earth's semblance, desire the image for the goddess' sake, divines the immortalities of form, and takes a body of the sculptured soul, loves adoration like a mystic seer, through vision looks at the invisible, in her alphabet finds a godlike sense, but the mind only thinks, behold the one for whom my life has waited long unfilled. Behold the sudden sojourn of my days.
Thank you. Let's pause there. This God that is within us has for his instrument the dim corporeal mind, the dull bodily mind of human beings, and so of celestial insight now forgetful grown. Because this love is depending on this outer mind, he becomes forgetful of his celestial source. He seizes on some sign of outward charm to guide him mid the throng of nature's hints. So he's seeking for other forms of the divine around, and to guide him, he seizes on signs of outward charm. He reads heavenly truths into earth's semblances. Again, this is something that within us that is looking deeper within the forms for heavenly truths. Desires the image for the Godhead's sake. Sees the image, desires the image, but actually seeking the deeper Godhead within. Divines the immortalities of form. He senses the immortalities, the divinity within forms, and takes the body for the sculptured soul. Because it's relying on these outer senses and mind, it takes the body as a form of the soul. Love's adoration, like a mystic seer, through vision looks at the invisible. Again, it's seeking through forms the Spirit. Through vision looks at the invisible. In Earth's alphabet, that is, its various signs and symbols, finds a godlike sense. It finds and seeks that divinity within the forms. But the mind, the outer mind, only thinks, "Behold the one for whom my life has waited long unfulfilled. Behold the sudden sovereign of my days." The mind thinks, "Oh, this is the one who I've been seeking," and is in love with the person, with the form. The soul within is seeking that deeper spiritual union. So we come back over here and we continue. Tinika. Heart feels for heart.
Heart feels for heart, limb cries for answering limb. All strives to enforce the unity all is. Too far from the divine, love seeks his truth, and life is blind, and the instruments deceive, and powers are there that labor to debase. Still can the vision come, the joy arrive. Rare is the cup fit for love's nectar wine, as rare the vessel that can hold God's birth. A soul made ready through 1,000 years is the living mold of a supreme descent. These knew each other through in forms thus strange, though. Although to sight unknown, though life and mind had altered to hold a new significance, These bodies summed the drift of numberless birth, and the spirit to the spirit was the same.
Thank you. So love comes down from its divine realms onto earth, and it gets translated into this: heart feels for heart, limb cries for answering limb. All strives to enforce the unity all is. Of course, that's what's behind love. No? It wants to realize the unity that all is. But too far from the divine, love seeks his truth, and life is blind, and the instruments deceive, the instruments of our mind and life and body. And powers are there that labor to debase. There are also adverse, hostile powers that try consciously to debase this love, to bring it down, drag it into the material form. Yet still can the vision come, the joy arrive. Still that beauty and wonder of love can come. And then he speaks of the avatar. Rare is the cup fit for love's nectar wine. It's very rare to find a human being, a form that can really hold the true essence of love. As rare the vessel that can hold God's birth. It's that rare. Actually, perhaps it can only be done in the avatar, the vessel that can hold God's birth. Only that form can really, truly embody love. A soul made ready through 1,000 years. The avatar form has evolved over thousands of years, become very refined, developed, so that it could express and hold this divine love and divine consciousness. A soul made ready through 1,000 years is the living mold of a supreme descent. I think indirectly he's also speaking of Savitri and Satyavan here. These knew each other, though in forms thus strange. Although to sight unknown, though life and mind had altered to hold a new significance. Thus they knew each other in their soul, something in their spirit, their soul recognizes each other, but to the physical forms they're unknown to each other, and they have new minds and lives in this particular lifetime than in the past lifetimes. They had altered mind and life had altered to hold a new significance. And these bodies summed the drift of numberless births. And the spirit to the spirit was the same. So even though their forms had changed, they are the outcome. They've summed the development of these numberless lives that they had had before. And still the spirit within to the spirit was the same. Now go to Helmut. You finish?
Amazed by a joy for which they had waited long, the lovers met upon their different paths, travelers across the limitless plains of time, together drawn from fate-led journeyings in the self-closed solitude of their human past, to a swift, rapturous dream of future joy and the unexpected presence of these eyes. By the revealing greatness of a look, form smitten, the spirit's memory woke in sense. The mist was torn that lay between two lives. Her heart unveiled and his to find her turned. Attracted as in heaven star by star, they wondered at each other and rejoiced and wove affinity in a silent gaze. A moment passed that was eternity's ray. An hour began, the matrix of new time.
Thank you. Sri Aurobindo returns to his common theme of fate, destiny, here in this last passage. The lovers met upon their different paths, travelers across the limitless plains of time, over the course of many years, many lives, together drawn from fate-led journeyings in the self-closed solitude of their human past. So now, from that past, they're in solitude they had lived, now to a swift, rapturous dream of future joy and the unexpected present of these eyes. This word present is interesting here. I don't know if it seems to almost have two meanings of the present moment of seeing these eyes, but also the gift of these eyes. So by the revealing greatness of a look, they gazed into each other's eyes and recognized each other. Form smitten, the spirit's memory woke in sense. The mist was torn that lay between two lives. Her heart unveiled and his to find her turned. So their hearts open to each other, attracted as in heaven star by star, they wondered at each other and rejoiced, and wove affinity in a silent gaze. Affinity is connection, but also a psychical or spiritual attraction. A moment passed that was eternity's ray. An hour began, the matrix of new time. And we see again this whole description here is happening in just a matter of a few moments. Sri Aurobindo really hones in deeply into these moments to describe. So I wanted to read that passage about Sri Aurobindo and the mother's first meeting, which is kind of perhaps behind some of this description we've read. So this is an extract from Mother's Agenda, December 20th, 1961. The mother spoke of her visions of this Asiatic figure that she had when she was a girl, and how it corresponded to her meeting with Sri Aurobindo. She also refers to the victory over the adverse forces, what she said that her final arrival on 24th April 1920 was the tangible sign. So here's Mother's description. I had a series of visions. I knew nothing about India, mind you, nothing, just as most Europeans know nothing about it. A country full of people with certain customs and religions, a confused and hazy history where a lot of extraordinary things are said to have happened. I knew nothing. Of course, this is when she was young, still perhaps a child or in her early teens. Well, in several of these visions, I saw Sri Aurobindo just as he looked physically, but glorified. That is the same man I would see on my first visit, almost thin, with that gold bronze hue and rather sharp profile, an unruly beard and long hair, dressed in a dhoti, with one end of it thrown over his shoulder, arms and chest bare, and bare feet. At the time, I thought it was vision attire. I mean, I really knew nothing about India. I had never seen Indians dressed in the Indian way. Well, I saw him. I experienced what were at once symbolic visions and spiritual facts. Absolutely decisive spiritual experiences and facts of meeting and having a united perception of the work to be accomplished. And in these visions, I did something I had never done physically. I prostrated before him in the Hindu manner. All this without any comprehension in the little brain. I mean, I really didn't know what I was doing or how I was doing it, nothing at all. I did it. And at the same time, the outer being was asking, what is all this? I wrote the vision down, or perhaps that was later on, but I never spoke of it to anyone. One doesn't talk about such things, naturally. But my impression was that it was premonitory, that one day something like it would happen. And it remained in the background of the consciousness, not active, but constantly present. I came here, but something in me wanted to meet Sri Aurobindo all alone the first time. Richard went to him in the morning, and I had an appointment for the afternoon. He was living in the house that's now part of the second dormitory, the old guest house. That stairway we can still go to, especially on this particular day. The old guest house. I climbed up the stairway and he was standing there, waiting for me at the top of the stairs. Exactly my vision. Dressed the same way, in the same position, in profile, his head held high. He turned his head towards me, and I saw in his eyes that it was he. The two things clicked, gesture of instantaneous shock. The inner experience immediately became one with the outer experience, and there was a fusion, the decisive shock. But this was merely the beginning of my vision. Only after a series of experiences, a 10-month sojourn in Pondicherry, 5 years of separation when she went to Japan, then the return to Pondicherry, and the meeting in the same house and in the same way, did the end of the vision occur. I was standing just beside him. My head wasn't exactly on his shoulder, but where his shoulder was. I don't know how to explain it. Physically, there was hardly any contact. We were standing side by side like that, gazing out through the open window. And then, together, at exactly the same moment, we felt, now the realization will be accomplished. That the seal was set and the realization would be accomplished. I felt the thing descending massively within me with the same certainty I had felt in my vision. From that moment on, there was nothing to say. No words, nothing. We knew it was that. So we can close with that.
There is a power within that knows beyond our knowing. We are greater than our thoughts, and sometimes earth unveils that vision here to live, to love are signs of infinite things. Love is a glory from eternity's